that jam. Love that jam. What's up, everybody? Welcome
What's going
to
on?
Hollywood Tales Podcast, live from Jam in the Van. My name is Ahmed Ahmed. I'm here with my co-host Blake Barty. What's up?
How's it going? How's it going?
It's good. It is Monday, December 20th, and we are live at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time from Jam in the Van Studios. If you've never been to this place, it's really awesome. They record music and have live comedy shows and events, and it's this whole multiplex building that used to be a ex-rehab center, oddly enough, and now there are stand-up comedians taking it over. This is episode number 3. The first one we did, our pilot episode, was with rock legend and old-time pal Tom Morello, who gave us some time and came on and had some really fun, cool stories and an awesome Hollywood tale. And then episode 2 last week, we had Anya Zova, very funny Russian comedian who is an ex kickboxer, lawyer, supermodel, and now comedian. And yeah, are you having fun so far doing this?
It's been a blast.
This episode 3, is a really special one. It's our Christmas episode edition. And you can see we have some toys here for the tots. My good pal that I've known for almost 30 years has agreed to come on and give us his time for about 20, 30 minutes. I'm just going to bring him right in, and then we'll circle back when he phases out. He's got stuff to do later, so I'm just going to bring him right on. You guys know our next guest from so many things. He was a really famous child actor, still is a famous actor, but as a child, he just broke ground with one of the biggest Christmas movies of all time called A Christmas Story, where he played Ralphie. And it was kind of like he was the Home Alone. It was like the Home Alone of our time without the sequels and stuff. But classic movie. I'm sure you've seen it if you haven't. That's kind of where he got his, I think, his big break. But then he's been in a bunch of other stuff, which we will pepper in along the way. He transitioned beautifully into producing. He was one of the executive producers of Iron Man, the first Iron Man movie. He produced and was acted in The Breakup with Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston, Four Christmases, Couples Retreat he directed also with Vince Vaughn, and the list goes on and on. So we'll get into some of his credits, his background, and what he's up to now. And let's just bring him on without any further ado. One of my old best friends, Peter Billingsley.
All right.
What's up?
What's up, pal?
Hello, man. How are you?
Good to see you, man. Thanks for making time.
Yeah. Hey, man. Glad to be here. The studio's looking nice and festive.
They've done a great job here.
Yeah, I like
Jam
it.
in the Van Studios is
There
this
we go.
new
Give
concept.
us the wide shot.
Yeah, and it's
That
one of
looks
these.
nice.
They built a little set for us, and when your career starts to go downhill, you start a podcast. So that's what I decided to do.
Well, others started one earlier when you start late in the game.
I know I should have started a long time ago.
I started it 10 or 12 years ago.
I should have. I didn't want to jump on the bandwagon. I thought I had some more gas in the tank as an actor and a comic.
Better late than never, and I'm hearing good things about Hollywood Tales.
Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely.
I've known Peter almost 30 years. We met on the set of an after-school special called The Fourth Man, which also starred Nicole Egger and, at the time, an unknown Vince Vaughn. And that's how we all met. I was an extra on the set. It was about
That's right.
Peter's character was this. Do you want to tell him about it, or should I?
Either way, this is your show. I'm just
you-
here to be a guest. You can lead me where you want me to go. This is your show, dude.
I just want to explain how we met, and then we can
Okay,
kill it.
fair enough. I'll be very quiet.
Pete was the star of this after school special, and he played like this like nerd who was trying to get the girl who was played by Nicole Eggett at the time from Charles and Charles, and she was also on Who's the Boss, right? She was also on Who's the Boss.
I don't think so.
No? Oh, Charles in
I
Charge.
don't think so. Correct. That was Alyssa Milano. I'm here to support. You keep telling
sorry.
your story. No worries.
Anyway, he took steroids to get on the track team. He wasn't fast enough, so he took steroids to get on the track team. And Vince Vaughn played his friend and high school quarterback who's like, "Don't do drugs. I'm going to tell the coach." And I was an extra. I played one of the guys on the track team who, whenever Peter would walk by, I would roll my eyes and be like, "Look at that loser." And then that's how we all met. Is there a picture, Wolf? There we go. That's a young Peter Billingsley.
Tim Rosovich. Yeah,
Tim Rosovich. Although, right, I think he's an ex-football player too, right? Turned actor.
absolutely. Yeah.
And then an
Young
unknown, yep, a young unknown Vince Vaughn right there on the left. And then we all became friends. And then Pete just went on to gracefully transition into directing and producing. I guess let's just get into that. What was that transition for you? Did you feel like it was a rough transition, or did you feel like, all right, I'm done with being in front of the camera. Let me try this angle and this side?
I had always wanted to do it, and I got some good advice from a good mentor who was Bob Clark, who directed A Christmas Story. And I had asked him, even around then, and then we remained friends after we did the movie, and said, I kind of want to get to the other side. What's the best way? And he said, through the edit room. So you got to learn how things are edited, and it's really the kind of final frontier. And it's such a great, because I had a lot of time on sets at that point. So it was great to get time there and see, kind of what you did right and often what you did wrong, because you're kind of stuck with the footage you have and what you can make of it. And so I was weird because I just kind of got apprenticeships to do stuff. I was sleeping on edit room floors. We knew each other back then, Ahmed, because that was right after The Fourth Man. And then I was just kind of hustling my way, trying to learn the business from the backside more that I didn't know. And then was trying to take any kind of job I could. And then that slowly started rolling into being able to try to develop stuff and try to get things on the board. And then I was doing TV and stuff. And kind of a first big break was Vince and John Favreau did a movie called Made. And I had been kind of just cutting my teeth in production. They asked me to come on board to help them with that. And that was around 2000. And that was kind of a big break for me. Behind the scenes, people that were really giving me an opportunity to do something that I felt I could do, but hadn't really been given yet.
And you did when you were phasing out of the in front of the camera to behind the camera. I think one of your last films was at that time called Arcade. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, Arcade, directed by Albert Pune, who's has done some pretty interesting kind of cool movies.
Right.
Arcade was done for Full Moon Entertainment, which was like Albert Band. I mean, for any cinephiles out there, they'll know. It was sort of like a Roger Corman equivalent. They did straight to video, dinosaur, come to life movies, Gremlins, kind of attack you kind of films. And this was virtual reality before it. I got sucked into a video game.
Right.
And that I remember on that movie, I asked for an apprenticeship to edit the movie because this was the first opportunity I had to get into an edit room.
Right.
So, and I had starred in the movie, which was not a very good movie. So the first day I show up, and the editors were like, "Oh, great, the star's here to apprentice. He's gonna be like, cut to me here, cut to me there." And I'm like, "Look, dude, you can cut me out of the movie. I just want to learn. I don't care. Just cut your movie."
That's funny. No, I remember that, and I thought that was a smart move to parlay that job into
the only leverage I had was to say, "These are people I know. They're editing it. Can I get this apprenticeship to edit?" Which they thought was crazy at the time, and I suppose seemed weird. But then that editor's name was Dean Goodhill. I worked with him and did some other stuff with him. He kind of brought me on board, and that was cool. It was before a lot of the Avids and the laptops and stuff that you can cut on now. But it was a great way to learn.
Sure. And then look, fast forward, you were one of the executive producers of the first Iron Man movie.
Correct.
Let's talk about special effects and green screen and getting back to that world a little bit. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, like how you got into the Marvel universe, if you will?
Yeah, I started after Made, did Dinner for Five, a show, kind of cool show for IFC with Favreau that we put together, where kind of had this idea of basically just people in Hollywood having dinner and drinking, and then we would do that, and then people would tell really funny Hollywood stories. And then I did a movie called Zathura with him, which was like a sequel to Jumanji, but not like the big sequel that just it came out as just like a sort of more unknown attempt at a sequel. It was a house that gets thrown into space. And then he was going to go do Iron Man, which at the time nobody really had heard of, except for I think comic book fans. Nobody really knew what Iron Man was, and it was kind of their attempt at taking control of the universe and trying to launch it. So it was, I mean, it was kind of I remember when I arrived, they had announced a release date for the movie, and there was no script. But the movie was coming out. Some movie was coming out on a particular date, but there was no. So then everyone like rolled out this calendar. It was like, okay, well, if the movie comes out here, you kind of go back. You're like, this much editing, right? This much shooting, this much prep. It's sort of like, holy shit, we're deep into active prep now, by the standards of making a movie. But at the time, there was just kind of not a script ready. So nothing like a deadline to get shit done,
to make
right?
a movie. Well, I remember I was an actor for many years playing terrorist roles and stuff, and I vowed never to play terrorist roles again.
Until I called.
And then Pete called. He's like, hey, man, I'm executive producing Iron Man. And there's a storyline in the movie where there's this terrorist camp. And I know you said you don't want to play terrorists anymore, but all the scenes are with Robert
These are
Downey
some
Jr.
really great terrorists. These are not the run-of-the-mill terrorists.
Right.
And I was like, these guys, they got costumes, they
Right.
got good weapons. Like, I was really kind of overselling.
Well, I said you had me at Iron Man.
And it was kind of fun to have Ahmed there, because we shot that movie in Los Angeles in that cave sequence in the beginning. We built what's now Zuckerberg bought it. It's now the Facebook buildings in Playa Vista.
Oh, is it? Okay. I didn't know that.
It was the hangars, these two huge hangars that
Right.
Howard Hughes built the wings for the Spruce Goose in,
Wow.
which was pretty cool. And so we built like all those caves, and then Ahmed came down and he was just like barking in Arabic at people, waving his gun around, but we had a blast.
It's funny because Tom Morello was here on our first episode, and he talked about his role in Iron Man. Remember?
Yeah, that's totally.
And he talked about how they rigged him with these straps.
And they yanked him.
They yanked
I mean,
him.
it's kind of fun. It's like if you're gonna be doing the terrorist role, it's not like the shitty B movie. It's kind of like the A-list version of it, where the craft service is pretty great. It's pretty comfy.
Oh yeah.
It's all pretty good. I remember. Do you remember hearing that? Like, so Howard Hughes had built those stages, and Howard Hughes was notorious for like hiding money and all kinds of crazy stuff. And there were tunnels under there.
Oh, I didn't
and
know
I
that.
really wanted to get like a posse together and go explore those tunnels. But there was there was like gangs of raccoons that were down there, and they were everywhere. And then someone said that there's methane down there, so you have to be careful. So I was trying to get a canary, because don't you take like a canary in a coal mine to warn you if the methane's there?
I had no idea. Did you know this?
No.
So I
had no idea.
That's why the expression canary in a coal mine. You take them down, and when the canary dies, you turn around and go back, because they'll die of lack of oxygen or from methane exposure first. And then I was going to try to get some chainmail pants for the raccoons. And they couldn't get anyone to go. Anyway, just to say, this is Hollywood Tales. I mean,
No, these are
the
great.
tales of Hollywood.
Blake had a question for you.
What was it like? That scene, I don't know. My favorite rom-com was the Breakup. I've seen it probably 40 times. Just throw it on as a good background movie sometimes. That scene you produced it, but the scene you were in where you asked for the jersey back from Vince Vaughn.
Yes.
And he just throws it at you, and he asked for his
wrist guard
back, and he says he hopes you snap your wrist. I mean, was that like a one and done scene, or?
No, we had some fun with that. I mean, Vince is the most fun to work with because he's so committed in like those moments. The fun of that is you're taking it, I mean, it's a bowling league, but you're taking it as though it's it's something, and the offense is lifelong. I think the wrist guard was an improv of his, which was just, he's just then going to kind of extend the moments and lean into the intention more. So the shirt's one thing, and he's throwing it down, and he's like, I'm going to need that back. And so he just kind of unwind it and give it back. But we had a lot of fun with that. And that movie was his original idea. So he was like not only was he the star, but it was he was sort of hosting the show. So it was a lot of fun to do. And he's like, even that stuff with Bateman and when he's the realtor and he's like, but I'm still going to charge you commission and all that. Like he'll throw things, make suggestions to people, let people go, shoot it in ways where you have total freedom to express yourself and have fun, and then kind of sorts through it all later and then puts in the right stuff. But it's, it's serious because you got to stay super committed. It's hard not to break and laugh, and you don't want to when it's really good. But in hindsight, you look back like it's very funny. But we can all relate. It's like when you break up and then you got to separate things. But in this case, it's like the bowling team.
Oh, I'm super petty. I love the scene.
Yeah.
So Pete, going backwards for a minute. Pete came off the heels of Christmas Story and got into directing and stuff. But there was a moment when we were all friends, me, you, and Vince, and a couple other people. But the three of us, we were kind of always in cahoots. And would go into remember when I was telling you the story about going into the Roxbury last week or 2 weeks ago? Yeah. Pete was there. But we would ride on Pete's fame. Because you were the famous one in the group.
At the time, yeah. So it's like you kind of, then the heat moves over here and then this guy's pushing you in a little bit. But I had some heat, as they say, coming off Christmas Story. It wasn't an instant success, but by the time we were like trying to run around and have some fun, it had broken through a little bit.
Yeah.
So we were able to use that heat to kind of gain entry to some clubs and some other more exclusive places by parading around the kid from A Christmas Story.
And there were two iconic projects you were in that really got eyeballs on you. One was A Christmas Story. Do we have a picture of that, Wolf?
I mean, just go to Target if you want to know.
There we go.
There we go.
There's my guy. So you can't forget that beautiful, cute face, right? And then, and then people knew you from. Well, you can show that picture too. He was on Who's the Boss?
Just one episode, though.
Yeah, people wouldn't remember you from that, I don't think. But the thing that I think a lot of people do remember you from before Christmas Story was this iconic commercial that you did a series of. And I think you told me at one point you did over almost 200 commercials as a child, or 100 plus.
Close, just over 100.
Just over 100 commercials, but this one.
A lot of those were local and regional because it was I was in New York in the 70s doing that stuff, and so they might be local New York for an insurance company or like sort of regional. It's how a lot of the stuff was built back then.
Right, and then the one commercial we have a clip of it. You played an iconic character named Messy Marvin. I think it was Hershey's chocolate syrup. Was that right?
Yeah.
And we have it here. Can we show?
Yes, it's Nessie Marvin. No matter how hard he tries,
Oh, Marvin!
he always makes a mess. Except when he makes his chocolate milk. He uses good old-fashioned Hershey syrup in the no-mess bottle. Great-tasting, thick, rich chocolate flavor that Hershey always delivers without making a mess.
Excellent. Marvin.
Delicious Hershey syrup in the no-mess bottle.
Oh, Marvin.
Oh, Marvin.
I'll tell you two things about that. So I almost didn't get the part because they hire what's called a backup for kids. So you hire who they want as their primary, and then as insurance, they used to. We don't really do it anymore. It's probably still a good plan. You hire a backup, and that backup comes and gets like a sort of probably a lower wage, and you kind of sit around all day in case the one you like tanks or can't do it. So we're sitting around. I guess they were really struggling with the first kid, and it just wasn't happening. They weren't getting what they want, and then the day's going on. I'm getting tired. It's boring. There's nothing to do. And finally, my mom's like, "All right, that's it. We're leaving. Like you're clearly not going to use them." It's like 5 o'clock, after like a 9 a.m. caller, and they go, "Okay, that's it. We're pulling the plug. Peter's in. We're just over this kid. I
didn't know that.
Wow.
So it's almost like, the quarterback gets hurt. I come dragging in, start warming up. All right, here we go.
I did not know that.
Give me the ball. And I just, boom, boom, boom. I was able to get what they wanted to. I remember relatively quickly. It was not super challenging for me. and kind of went through it. And then I guess it obviously took off. We did, I think, 8 of those. And
Yeah.
by the time they
It was a whole
canceled
series. Yeah.
they canceled it for the reason in your intro of the clip. You go, it's Messy Marvin, and I think Hershey's syrup. So people weren't associating the product. So they knew the character, they were entertaining, they were fun, but you you didn't even really remember the product.
It's funny you say that because Messy Marvin did overshine the product. Your
Right,
character,
and they're there to sell syrup, not make short
They're like,
films.
let's get rid of this kid.
Yeah. And that water thing was before CG. I remember they had that. That was a freaking tank right behind me, and they had a big lever and just busted that shit right out at you. And it was like, kind of nail it, because the cleanup is like an hour turnaround between takes.
Right.
To refill the tank. It was fun. It was a lot of fun to do, but somehow the character outshined the product, and that's a no-no in the advertising world,
right,
gentlemen.
Right. What's your so you've been in? I know we only have you for a few more minutes, so I just want to ask you a couple more questions. Blake, do you have anything you want to throw out there?
Geez, really? That's kind of insulting, Blake.
I know. Come on, man. You did
nothing?
Your research. No, it's funny because he's like,
Blake
I did.
just shakes his head.
Right.
No. Do you have anything for our guest? No.
Yeah. Nope. Nothing. We have a gift.
Uh-uh.
We have some fake gifts in the back. What, as an actor, I guess like a dissected actor, producer, director, is there any project that stands out to you the most, that is the most memorable, or you can look back and say, that was one of my greatest accomplishments? I was like, what, is there something that sticks out specifically to you?
Tough to know, all different for kind of reasons. I mean, I will say that you don't know which ones are going to be more sticky than others. Like sometimes you go in, before Christmas Story, I did a movie called Honky Tonk Freeway, which was directed by John Schlesinger, one of the biggest directors, Oscar winning director. On that set, hey kid, you're going to be a star, total bomb. Then I did a movie with Burt Reynolds called Paternity.
I remember
all
that.
The hype on that set. And Burt was the Tom Cruise box office guy, like of his day, right? He was the #1 box office draw. This was in the late 70s.
Right.
Kid, this is it. We're going to break you. This is all happening. Oh, this is great. Yeah, I can't wait. Total bomb. Nobody had heard of it. Didn't give me any traction. You don't know. And then Christmas Story was this sort of like, I always call it like take your lunch pail to work kind of movie, like super focused, great vision, work hard. And, that one pops over time. And then other stuff you think is going to do. And I think, even Iron Man, I think in some ways exceeded expectations. Right. How far it kind of traveled and how much resonance it was able to kind of push through. You just don't know. And that's kind of the fun of it. You approach them all the same way, trying to make them outstanding, trying to make them great. But you kind of don't know which ones will get through, which ones don't.
Let's talk about Wild West Comedy Tour for a minute. Another project that I was in with you guys, you and Vince.
All roads go through Ahmed Ahmed.
No, all roads go through Vince Vaughn, actually.
A lot of roads go through you, dude. I mean, hats off to you. Vince wanted to do this kind of comedy, take a comedy show on the road, and we wanted to do it with Ahmed. And then we're like, Ahmed's always a great curator of talent. He has a great eye for talent that's young, that's coming up, that's working, that's maybe slightly on the radar, or is maybe a little bit off the radar, but he's always had a really good eye, and he's got great taste. And so it was really helpful for him to help curate us, those comedians, who was Brett Ernst, John Caparello, Ahmed, and Sebastian Maniscalco at a time before any of these guys were well known. And Ahmed put them on our radar. And so that's, kudos to him. And we went out on the road for 30 straight days, performed 30 straight nights without a break. Because Vince thought that sounded good. He's like, let's do 30 straight nights. Like 30 in a row? Yeah, we'll do 30 in a row, not one day off. And it got delirious. That footage needs to be burned, because some of the behind the scenes footage, it's like the road starts making you crazy.
Well, it's funny because the backstory is that you guys were on the breakup. You were shooting the breakup in Chicago.
Yeah, in Chicago.
You were in the movie. You were also a producer on the movie. And I remember Vince just bought a tour bus, really nice tour bus.
Yeah, this is awesome.
and he did a charity benefit for Iraqi soldiers' wives, like Iraqi soldiers who passed in the war. It was for the wives, and we did it at the Park West Theater, if I remember correctly, in Chicago.
In Chicago, yeah.
And Vince said, "Hey, can you call up a couple of your comedy buddies and let's do this thing?" And it was the guys you mentioned, Brett, John Caparello, Brett Ernst, John Caparello, and at the time, an unknown Sebastian Maniscalco. And I remember we all went to dinner at Gibson's, and we had a steak dinner at Gibson's. Ari Sandel was there, who ended up directing the documentary. And Vince said, "Hey, let's all go. I'm off in a week for like a month. Let's go on a comedy tour." And, at the time, I remember Sebastian looking over at me, and he's like, "I got nothing going on. Of course I'll go on a comedy tour, whatever." And so we ended, like 10 days later, we were on this bus going around America. It was a wild
And
ride.
it shot some behind the scenes footage and cut it into a pretty fun little movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. Where can people see it now? It's on HBO Max, I heard, or
It could be. Yeah. I mean, you got to look it up.
gotta dig around.
I mean, most things are on Amazon in some form of pay, but it's called, it's just a short title. It's easy to remember. It's called Vince Vaughn's Wild West Comedy Show, 30 Days, 30 Nights, Hollywood to the Heartland. That is the official title. So it's an easy bite-sized one that's super easy to Google. So
How were you able
It's
to book
fantastic.
30 venues in that short a notice? Back to
that part was kind of crazy. Some of them we four-walled because, some didn't have it. Some you kind of rent out the venue and then you have to book yourself. And they were, ranged from theaters to kind of mini sort of auditoriums. Then we'd fill them up, land. The guys would do a lot of press and radio. We'd sort of advance the thing on the day and then, kind of a nail biter to pull it off. But a lot of it was stand-up comedy, some improv. I did some improv. We'd have special guests. Justin Long came with us on the bus for a while. Keira O'Donnell traveled with us. It was pretty fun. I mean, I'll tell you, you guys do it all the time, but to kind of live that sort of circus kind of life for a minute, that Willie Nelson sort of life was kind of fun.
Yeah. Not every day, but for that
Not
time
every day.
capsule,
Holy shit.
It's a lot.
I mean, it burns you out. Yeah, for sure. But it was a blast, man. It was a real blast. We had a lot of fun. But the movies are cool. It's great to have the movie because it's almost like a little time capsule of that time, better than just a few photos
Right.
than we would have had.
I know you have to bounce soon, so and thank you for making time.
Oh,
to
my
come
pleasure.
on this
Yeah,
podcast, man.
I'm just still waiting for Blake to ask me something, but maybe that's not going to happen.
Blake, you're dropping the ball, man.
I just asked the 30
Other than,
I just want to go.
you remind me of the great Chris Farley. Remember when in the breakup when when you gave him the wrist guard? No, I'm happy to answer anything else.
By the way, this is Blake's third podcast ever.
Yeah.
Like ever.
Blake's
ever.
killing it. I mean,
Yeah, I'm killing it.
He's
I'm
doing
really
a great
well.
job. He stills the visual by wearing
Right.
the red, which is a dominant.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you this,
It's
that it's a
Christmas time.
passive aggressive choice on his part.
Yeah. Well,
It draws
sometimes.
the eye to him and takes it away
Yeah.
from you.
No, I knew, and he did that on
It's like
purpose.
Tiger Woods on a Sunday.
Well, that's right.
He would
That's
always wear
why.
the red. Just
that's
to
why-
intimidate. There you go.
Reverse outfits on.
That's
There
why I
you go.
wore.
Yeah,
So
you
I wore white on purpose because I wanted to offset his, flagrant red. And sometimes less is more. Sometimes just not saying anything is saying everything. I want to
Are
just
those
go.
your sponsors on the table, by the way?
Oh yeah,
The, beverages.
Sierra Nevada sponsored. Well, they don't sponsor us. They sponsor the whole jam
Oh,
of the
cool.
van.
Nice, dude.
Yeah, this is
And you're sponsored by the Oscars as well, which is
Yeah.
kind of exciting.
that just happened actually.
That's great.
And hey,
They're really,
we'll
they're
take
really
whatever we-
struggling for viewers.
the 101 Freeway sponsored me too. I don't know if you're.
That's,
if
that's
you
awesome.
can see
dude.
that.
You guys are killing it. I see you sponsored by Beverly Hills and Sepulveda
Fake
Boulevard.
stars.
It's pretty exciting.
Hey man, we take what we can get.
You guys are killing it.
I want to go back full circle with the fourth
Okay.
man because unless you have like a specific Hollywood tale you want to wrap up this podcast with, I'd like to bring it back around full circle as to how not only because I talked about how you, me, and Vince met on set of the fourth man, but can we talk about because the story of Vince getting cast on that was interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
But then you want to wrap it up with
Yeah, no, happy to. I mean, we did. it's a short shoot. It was like 8 days, and I remember Vince in particular kind of formed a nice friendship with Ahmed. And we didn't have fancy trailers, but you have what's called a honey wagon, and a honey wagon.
Well, can I interject for a sec?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I wanted to start as to how he got cast because you were a part of that.
Oh, you want me to start there? Okay,
if you can. Just
sure. Yeah. Yes. So it was kind of one of the last things I did, but they had offered me the part, which means I didn't have to audition for it. So I was cast in this, and then they were going to cast who was to play my best friend. And so then they like to do these chemistry reads where, the director whittles it down to a few of them, and then you read with them. And then you kind of see who you're vibing, and you all try to agree, and then you cast that person. So I remember her name was Joanna Lee, who was the writer, director, producer. This was her show for sure. This steroids tale, cautionary tale of steroid use was her baby at the time. And so we went into the office and I read, and it got narrowed down to two guys. Vince, he was, definitely taller and skinnier, and then this kind of more kind of boxier guy. And they were both set to play an athlete. And so I read with them, and, I remember Vince being good, and I remember this other guy being good. So they dismissed the actors, and the director said, what do you think? And I said, honestly, they both work for me. They're both good. Like, either way, I don't think we can go wrong. I think they're great. And I said, it's your call. She said, okay, I'm going to go meditate on it. And I was like, cool. Everyone's got their process. So I left, and I just said, let me know when you're done meditating and you get the answer. So I went out and I waited a minute, and then one of her staff came and said, come on. I walked back in, and she said, your best friend will be played by Vince Vaughn. And I was like, great, that's awesome. So we became good friends. We started hanging out a little bit because, as actors, you take this stuff seriously, any part, even after school special. So we would hang out at Jerry's Deli in LA and just kind of started to try to build some chemistry. And we just really liked each other. So we were kind of really good friends. And then we did the show, and Vince liked Ahmed and would invite him into his honey wagon, kind of your one-room trailer for lunch and stuff. And a couple of times I kind of, and this is not, it's so hard, Ahmed, to tell this story and not be shitty.
Uh-oh.
But, it's like a lot of times, and it's fucked up, but they'll separate extras from, they're not even called extras anymore. They'll call them background. But you would see this luxurious craft service for the main actors, and then just shit plates, cold coffee, and a jug of water for the background. It's terrible. And, as you learn, you kind of ingratiate yourself and you try to treat everybody nicely. But also sometimes some background's really eager and they're trying to jump into scenes. So it's always you got to be careful, right? Kind of how you got to be careful. So I remember I went by the trailer one day, and Ahmed's kicking it in Vince's trailer, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" Homeboy's moving up, and Vince is like, "This dude's pretty cool. This is Ahmed. Have you guys met?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he seems cool." And I was like, "Hey, man." And so I liked Ahmed. We met. You kind of hang out with people on sets, and then sort of the show's over, and life goes on. And Vince and I kept in touch. I was living in Phoenix. I was probably 18. And I was going to kind of move out to LA full time. I had been in LA my whole life, going back and forth, had temporary apartments, but I really wanted to kind of make the move and commit. So we were talking. He's like, you should just come live with me, man. Got this cool place in Hollywood. And I was like, that sounds great. So packed up and, drove my Volvo wagon, cruised out there from Phoenix. And, look at the address, and I got the building, and I buzz the thing, and I get buzzed in, and I go up, and I knock on the door, and I'm ready, me and Vince going to be roommates, take on the town, and the door opens up, and it's Ahmed, and he's holding a feather duster, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And I instantly was like, oh my God, I've made a horrible decision. Who are these people? And I'm like, hey. And he's like, hey, Peter B, what's going on? And I was like, well, what's up, dude? And he's like, remember me? And I'm like, yeah, from the thing. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're like, I'm cleaning. Come on in, man. And it turns out he lived there too. So I'm like, where's Vince? And you're like, he's out running errands. He's got an appointment. He'll be back later. I'm like, all right, cool. So it turns out like there was a few dudes living there. And it was pretty great. It was kind of these young, hungry guys coming to Hollywood who wanted to act and were trying to build their careers. And Vince had this cool place in Hollywood. And for a minute, it was like this kind of awesome shack of good energy and creativity with all the different places on the floor that we were kind of shacking up. And about the only downside to it was that when you have a bunch of dudes and no one's really cleaning, like people might put a couple dishes away, but no one's like cleaning the showers and shit. Right. Remember this?
Right.
So if you don't clean out the drain of the shower, over time the water fills up.
Yeah.
And so like after a couple weeks, like there would be this much gray water just sitting in the tub at all times. So when you'd go to take a shower, you'd have to just step into it. And you just quickly showered because it was so fucking gross. You just quickly showered, hopped out, and then nobody bothered to pick the hair out of the drain until finally it was done. But that was how I kind of got connected to Ahmed. And then we really did bond. And then shortly after, we're like, maybe 6 months later, got a place and then became roommates and have been roommates numerous times.
Yeah.
Kind of through our 20s, throughout our life. So that is my Hollywood tale.
I love it. And I remember you called Vince and you were like, or you saw him or whatever, and you're like, hey man, you're not supposed to bring the extras home.
And he was still referring to him as an extra. He's like, it's fucking Ahmed, dude. Come on.
He was like, no, man, he's cool. He's fine. That was fun, man. Well, hey, bud.
Yeah, it was a total blast. Well, best of luck, guys. This is a lot of fun.
Hey, I just want to say thanks, man.
Thank you.
You're it's an honor to have you on, and just so fun. And thank you for sharing all those awesome stories and being on this podcast. And Blake, any last? Nothing? Really?
All right,
thank you for the tough
Here we
questions. Go. Okay, here we go. Good.
You ready? Are you a Bears
Yes,
fan?
I do like
saw
the Bears.
you did the 30 for 30. You did the 85
Yes,
Bears.
I do. I have a lot of great respect for the Bears. Bears in the NFC, and I'm an Arizona Cardinals guy. Okay. So, but I mean, I do like the Bears. I love the history. I love Chicago. I've been to quite a few Bears games. So I do like them, if that's your question. I don't hate them.
I saw you did a 30 for 30, and I was wondering how you ended up with that one.
That was kind of the fun. I mean, Vince obviously grew up with him, and Vince narrated that. So it was just fun to be a part of that and have the chance to get to have that story told. What a great story. What a great team.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Cool, bro. Well, we're excited to see what you have coming out in the future.
I appreciate it.
You can come back in a few months once you've dropped a couple projects and
beautiful.
Yeah, F is for Family, Couples Retreat, Breakup, Four Christmases, Iron Man, A Christmas Story. Check out all his stuff. My awesome, oldest, dearest, best friend, Peter Billingsley. Thanks, brother. Thanks, you.
Peter.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Blake. Best of luck to keep the show going. It's fun.
Thanks, pal. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Have a great night.
Take care.
Thanks.
Same to you.
All right, guys. I'm going to take this off. It's getting warm. Peter Billingsley. One more time for Peter Billingsley, huh? From A Christmas Story. This is a nice little Christmas edition to have him on. That was nice that he made time. He actually gave us more time than he committed to. He was on there. How long, Wolf? 40 minutes almost? Yeah. So that was fun. I don't know. Can he still hear us or watch us? I see him now. No. Yeah. Well, that was cool. It was fun to bring him on as a guest because he has so many awesome stories. He's seen it all. Like, he literally has seen it all. And so as an actor, as a producer, as a director, never jaded. A lot of a good handful of my friends that are still working and surviving in Hollywood never got jaded by drugs, the fast lane. Everybody has peaks and valleys in their career, but he's always remained consistent, and so that was cool.
He's not a fan of extras mingling with the stars.
Well, when I was doing
other than that,
he doesn't like because he was like he's an extra, he's below us.
Oh, I could see you answering the door with a friggin' feather duster too.
Vince Vaughn would always enable people and say, "Hey, come stay with me." He's like this nurturer. He's like the mother hen, if you will, and he'd always invite people to come live with him. Sometimes for free, sometimes hey, for a couple $100 you can take my couch every month or something. But it was more about not the money. It was more about like getting into Hollywood, getting your feet wet. We took acting classes together, and he's the real sort of actor's actor because he really takes his craft seriously. And look, he's done well. We used to go on hikes up Runyon Canyon, me, Peter, and Vince. And Vince would look out over Hollywood and he would say, "I'm going to be one of the biggest movie stars one day."
He spoke it into existence.
He spoke it into existence,
Yep.
and then here he is. And then he would ask Pete, "What about you?" And he'd look at me and say, "What about you?" And I'd say, "I'm going to start a podcast called Hollywood Tales when I'm 51 years old."
Nice, yeah. Speak it.
At a jam in the van.
I love this place.
I do, man. I feel at home here. I feel like there was a very homey vibe going on here. They had their Christmas party here was that Thursday, Wolf? Yeah. Man, that was fun. Karaoke, they had a weed bar set up. I guess I missed all the psychedelics. There was like all these psychedelics upstairs.
There was a mushroom bar.
There's a mushroom
Maybe.
bar. Somebody
Maybe
ate them
not.
all. So let's shift into our next segment. I think we have 20 minutes. Looks like, yeah, we've got about 20 minutes left on the podcast. Let's talk about last Thursday at Cruisers really quick.
Oh man,
we do a weekly show at a place called Cruisers Bar. It's a really just kind of little divey sports bar. Not even divey. It's actually a nice sports bar. Chicago style sports bar, and we do comedy in there on Thursdays. And and I host it, and it's only like anywhere from 30 to 40 people a week, and it's free. We don't charge anybody, and comics from LA come down and perform, and then we get some local people. But there was a guy in the front row who just wouldn't shut the fuck up.
yeah. I went on, I think second or third. And I'm doing jokes, and I'm getting laughs from the back, and then this guy's sitting right up front with his feet up on the stage, and he's just like, "That was funny. That was good." Like, just heckling. I don't think he knew
annoying.
he was heckling, but he was just super drunk.
Well, he was really drunk, and he
Yeah.
didn't realize he was being annoying.
Yeah.
And then I kept on asking him to be quiet, and then when one of the comics, Angie Stroud, when she was on stage, he started voice texting his girlfriend like out loud.
Yeah.
And so I went up to him and I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, "Hey, bro, what are you doing? Like, put your phone away." And then he did it again, and I went to the staff and I said, "This guy's got to go." And the waitress Molly ran over and she's like, Mallory, she's like, "Can you make sure he pays his bill first?" So he paid his bill, and then they escorted him out.
Before the show started, he thought it was like an open mic, and he came up to the back, and he's like, "Is this the green room?" And he started telling us a joke that he came up with, and we were just looking at him like,
Yeah,
"Oh
no.
my God."
Stay home.
Yeah.
We have some shows coming up in January. Hyenas Comedy Club in Dallas. If you go to hyenascomedyclub.com, I think, we will be there January 14th and 15th. 4 shows, 2 shows a night. Right after that, we're rolling right into Florida. We'll be in Naples, Florida, Miami, Boca Raton, and then some other dates hopefully we'll add on. So stay tuned for that. You can follow me at Ahmed Comedy, AHMED Comedy. You can follow Blake at
Blake.Barty.
Way to give it energy, bud.
Blake.Barty on everything. How do you feel about going back to the infamous Off the Hook where the 911 call was placed on you?
Yeah, so in 2019, Mother's Day 2019, I was performing at Off the Hook Comedy Club in Naples, Florida. I've been there a few times. I'm friends with the owner. And I do a joke where I don't do it anymore, but I do a joke where I say, "Hey, any Middle Eastern people out there?" And a few people clap. And I say, "That's great. There's a small group of us here, but hey, it only takes one of us." Right? And then people chuckle. And then I say, "But seriously, lock the doors." Right? This guy in Florida thought that I said, "Hey, there's enough of us to start our own little terrorist organization." And I think we referenced this in one of the podcasts last week or the week
You
before.
said, we were
I
gonna
think it was
show the
with
video.
Anya was here,
Yep,
right?
last week.
So the guy who called 911 on me, when the call was done, 2 cops showed up the next day and interviewed me, and then I recorded them interviewing me, and then posted it on Twitter that night, and then it went viral the next day, and then it made press, like New York Times, New York Post, CNN, BBC, everybody was picking it up. And it got so much attention around it that the call actually also became public domain. And a friend of mine named Tom Winkler, who used to be an animator for The Simpsons, grabbed the actual 911 call between the operator and the caller, and he made a cartoon of it. And I've been playing it at some of my comedy shows that have a screen or an LED screen or some sort of projector because it's just too funny not to play. So we have it here for you guys. Can we play it?
Collier County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Cormier. This line is recorded. How may I help you?
Hi, I don't know if I have the right department, but last evening I went to a comedy show, and the comedy show is happening again tonight at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
At Off the Hook.
Yep.
On Pine Ridge Road. Are you familiar with that?
I am, yep.
Okay. There was a comedian. His name is Ahmed Ahmed, and he's Middle Eastern.
Uh-huh.
And the first thing he said when he got out on the stage was, okay, how many Middle Eastern people do we have here? And a whole bunch of people raised their hand.
Uh-huh.
I guess they went to see him because he was Middle Eastern.
Uh-huh.
You know, when you hear the name Ahmed Ahmed.
Right.
I guess. So, and there weren't a lot of people there, I guess, because of the name.
Uh-huh.
I went because I got free tickets.
Okay.
And as the people raised their names, they said, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Iraq. I'm from Iran. I'm from Pakistan. I'm from here. I'm from there. He said, that's great. He said, we could organize our own little terrorist organization.
Oh.
And I don't think that was right.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
it really bothered me.
Yeah, I understand that in this environment.
And I yelled out, yeah, and the paddy wagon's going to be outside to get all of you.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know, is that something that should not be said? Something to be done about it?
That I don't know. I'm not a certified deputy, so I don't know the law on it, but I can send a deputy out there if you'd like, and maybe they can talk with them and see, what that was about.
Because there's another show at 7 o'clock. I don't know if he's going to say it again.
Yeah.
There's a total of 5 shows. No, 5 shows. 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday. Yeah, 5 shows. So I don't know if he's going to say it again, but I just thought it was terrible. My wife and I looked at each other and we felt very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I understand that. Like I said, I could send somebody out there tonight and have them see what's going on.
Okay. Maybe listen in and see if he says something like that.
Yeah, would you like anyone to contact you with the outcome or anything?
Well, I wouldn't want my name used.
We don't have to.
I
Put you
wouldn't want
anonymous then.
anybody. I wouldn't want my name told to the comedy club at all, because
Okay.
I go there all the time.
Yeah, well then I'll just leave it anonymous then, and they'll just address it and see if it's something they need to handle, then they will.
Thank you.
Okay?
Because they start at 7, and
Okay.
he comes on a little later, because they have two other comedians.
Okay, I'll let them know. All right, appreciate
I was
that.
debating on whether I should call or not,
Yeah, I
but
understand.
I just think
Well,
it's
if it's
terrible.
bothering you,
Yeah.
it's better to check it out.
There were about 25, Muslims there.
Okay.
So,
All right, well, we'll have them check it out, okay?
all right.
All right, thank you for
Thank
calling.
you.
Have a good night.
All right.
All right, bye-bye.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Isn't that something? I can't believe that actually happened to me. I still, to this day, I'm in awe. And the guy, when it got all this press, we found out who he was because he gave himself up in the call. He's like, "Oh, I go there all the time with my wife. We get free tickets." So we did this like cross check of who was there that night with their wives and got free tickets, and it was this guy. I won't say his name, but I found him on Facebook and I friended him. And then he sent me a message saying, "How do we know each other?" I'm like, "You know how the fuck we know each other."
You should invite him, man.
No, he'll show up. He came to the follow-up show. He came back in disguise. I found out later. And then the 911 operator, this really nice lady named Barbara Ann, hit me up on Twitter. She was like, "Oh my God, this is not a good look for Naples. Sorry I had to take the call."
Did the cops come interview you?
Yeah. Yeah, if you Google Florida man calls 911 on Muslim comic and just hit the video section, you'll see the video of me recording
I
the
haven't seen
cops.
that. It's nice.
I thought I showed it to you. So that should be fun. So we'll be in Florida, back at Off the Hook Comedy Club in Naples, Florida, January 18th, which is a Tuesday. And then we're in Key West, Florida, January 19th, Wednesday. And then Boca Raton, January 20th. And then looking to fill those 2 other dates, hopefully in Miami. But stay tuned for that. Gosh, I was going to say one other thing, and I totally just lost my train of thought. Houston. Oh, we have Brea Improv coming up. I know it's a couple months down the road, but Brea Improv.
February 16th.
February 16th. Go to improv.com/Brea. And it's myself and Blake and a couple of the comics that were on the Irvine show. And I think that's it. Is there anything else we need to cover before our hour? We're trying to keep these podcasts, at an hour max or under.
We're at 52 right now.
We're at 52 minutes.
Yeah, we're good.
Why don't you tell us your best Hollywood tale, Blake?
Oh, I don't really have a Hollywood tale for this week. I just want to say Merry Christmas to everybody, or Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. And if you and your family decide to send me a picture or a Christmas card of you and your family at the beach with a professional photographer and how beautiful you are together while I'm sitting home alone during the holidays, just know I'm going to put that in a box somewhere. And when you guys inevitably break up, I'm going to mail it back. And
What happened here, guys? What happened to that nice little... I heard a comic do a joke about wedding gifts. I can't remember the specifics of it, but it was about don't spend too much on a wedding gift because when that person gets a divorce, then you spend all that money. I don't know. I'm fucking up the joke. Wolf, any last words?
what's your Hollywood story?
My Hollywood story. Well, I just had
Your
him.
Hollywood tale.
We just had him. We just had him on our podcast. Peter Billingsley
Yeah, that was really
helped
good.
me share a couple Hollywood stories. Not sure who our guest is next week. It might just be us. But please tune in. We are here every Monday, live from the Jam in the Van studios here in West LA, 3384 Motor Avenue, right between Venice and Pico. Go to jaminthevan.com. Check out all their upcoming shows. I don't know if I should be plugging this, but Nick Swartzen is going to be performing here on New Year's Eve, and he's a really old friend of mine, super funny comic, and an amazing guy. They have live music, live comedy, live events, podcasts, and it's just a dope spot. So if you're in LA and looking for something to do, go to jaminthevan.com. A big thanks to Jack Higgins, our creative director, the two Jakes, Jake Trainer and Jake Kotler, who own and run this place. And last but not least, Wolf Ramirez over here, our
Thank you, Wolf.
producer, videographer, editor, holding it all down, making sure this happens for you. Streaming live from Jam in the Van every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you missed it, just go to Jam in the Van on YouTube, click on Hollywood Tales. This has been episode 3 of Hollywood Tales. And can you see us? No?
There it is.
There it is. Episode 3 of Hollywood Tales. Follow me at Ahmed Comedy, AHMED Comedy.
At Blake.Barty. And that's pretty much it on everything. Yeah, Blake Barty.
Cool.
Thank you.
Great times, guys. Thank you, and signing off. See you next Monday.